Right On is a wonderful initiative from Westside, enabling as it does the gathering together of talented local writers, enabling them to exchange ideas, progress their work, and give support to new and emerging writers from your community and its surrounds.
They say there's beauty and there's culture on the streets of Galway town, where the crack and the fun is everywhere around. The buskers and the artists and the characters are all there. You can walk along the river or stroll up to Hare Square. It may lead you to some places, from the market to the pier, where the people tend to gather when the sunshine does appear. The Spanish Arch and Long Walk hold the history of this place, and the swans in the evening gather there in all their grace. Galway, Galway, the culture capital city and the wild Atlantic way. Galway, Galway, it's the people and the culture that'll make you want to stay. Galway, Galway, the culture capital city on the wild Atlantic way. Galway, Galway, it's the people and the culture that'll make you want to stay. It's the people and the culture that'll make you want to stay. People and the culture that'll make you want to stay.
The City of the Tribes has been an inspiration for writers and artists throughout the ages. It could just as easily have been named the City of the Scribes. In 2017, a few people interested in writing met in the Westside Resource Centre to form the Right On group. Little did we anticipate the direction we would take. I'm Frank Fahey. I'm going to meet with James and some other members to talk about the early days. Why did you join the Right On group?
Well, I went down to the West Side and I joined a small group of writers under a chap called Charlie Adley. I had an interest in writing, but his course was pretty short. My daughter, at the time, was with another group, Right On, who were in an adjacent room, and she advised me about it and said that I should come along and join them.
Right On was set up for people just like James. We formed the group to encourage writing of all kinds.
I met a neighbour who suggested I come and try it. So I went to the West Side Resource Centre and asked would they have me. I loved the group as I got to know them, mostly during tea time when we took a break and had a chat.
I had read the anthology that had come out the previous year, so I was very impressed with the content of it, the variety of it, and the fact that you could write very short stories and you had 50-word pieces, and it encouraged you to write because you didn't have to think that you were going to write this big long piece. It was all about short pieces.
Like Judith, it was the anthology that sparked my interest in the Right On group. A friend of mine invited me to the launch of the 2020 anthology, and I enjoyed it so much I thought I'd give it a try.
Describe your first encounter with Right On, the first time that you went into a physical meeting in Westside. What was it like?
Well, when I walked into the room, to be honest about it, everybody was in a good mood. Everybody was enthusiastic. We had a couple of jokes flying around the place, and then we got down to the serious business of people reading their pieces to the rest of us. It worked for everybody, and it was purely casual. I totally enjoyed it.
My first meeting with the Right On group, I was a bit nervous, but like James, once I went into the room, I got a warm welcome. My friend Elizabeth was there already, and it seemed a happy group, and I thought this could be for me.
I found that at different times you would get various ideas into your head, and rather than throw them away or forget about them, you'd write them down, and essentially my pocket would be full of little notes that I intended to carry on with and expand. Unfortunately, I never did, and I needed that little bit of guidance, which the Right On group have given me.
First person I met was Frank Fahey and Mary Rose. They were more than welcoming. Frank is full of life and enthusiasm,
and would make you want to join anything.
My first session with the Right On group was actually in the west side of Galway. Frank wanted to introduce me to the members, or the members that were there that night anyway, and explain the idea.
The idea that Bill was referring to was the creation of a writers' forum rather than a writing class. We wanted to create an atmosphere where people came along with their various pieces of writings to share with their peers in a relaxed, convivial atmosphere.
It was daunting reading in front of strangers, but they were wonderful. They told you it was great and gave constructive ways to maybe make it better.
Had you written stories and poems before?
I read a lot to the kids as they grew up, and at one stage then when I had a granddaughter, I decided to write a little story for her. I wrote that and I went and I got it published.
I have always written stories and poems. English was my favourite subject. I had lots of stuff on all kinds of files in the computer, never did anything with them.
But unlike Elizabeth, I had never written anything before. I often thought about it, but with rearing a family and a full-time job, I was always too busy. So when I retired, I heard about the Right On group, and I just thought I'd give it a go.
Like the others have said, I found it difficult to combine writing with a busy career. Now that I had some more time, I was very keen to indulge myself in more creative writing.
Anything that I ever wrote, I tore up and threw away. I had no confidence, and that's why I felt that I needed to be with a group.
Each week we met, brought along our notebooks, paper, typed sheets, got together, and then we would take turns and read to each other.
As Elizabeth mentioned there, we read to each other. We didn't have a requirement to submit work in advance, and the work was shared in whatever form it turned up in, be that a typed page, a jotter, a scrap of paper on a person's phone or whatever. Our ambition was to make people comfortable and build up their confidence and trust. We did this through the more obvious things of the cups of tea and the social occasion that Right On turned into. But in my opinion, the real thing that built people's trust was the feedback that they got from their peers as to actually how good their work was.
At the end of the first year, we decided to bring out Anthology 2019. It was a marvellous experience, quickly followed the following year by Anthology 2020, and then collections of work by the individuals, Building New Bridges by Frank Fahey and New Dawn, Anne McManus, in her 80th year, first time published.
By the end of 2019, Right On had turned into a virtual cottage industry. As Elizabeth showed you, we'd produced 4 books at that point. Not only had we produced the books, but we had pooled our talents and skills to write, edit, publish, produce photography, get sponsorship, launch, market and sell the books. From humble beginnings, we were actually making wonderful progress. Then it all went wrong. We returned to Westside Resource Centre for our meetings early 2020 with absolutely no idea that COVID-19 was only around the corner.
James, how did COVID-19 affect you personally?
It didn't affect me that much, to be honest about it, because I wasn't that much aware of the consequences of it. But I was taking advice, and both myself and my wife were extremely careful. We did isolate.
I wasn't as cool as James about this whole thing. In fact, as the days went on, I became more and more terrified. There was nothing on TV except the pandemic, and it did seem like we were all going to be confined to barracks until this miraculous vaccine came along. The whole thing was very scary.
When lockdown was announced, My art group and my swimming group all closed down. I thought Right On would be the same. I was very disappointed. I thought we were left there, myself and my husband, just watching television, nothing else to do.
At the time, I was a member of a number of social groups. We were notified that the choir couldn't meet any longer. Then we were notified that the book club wouldn't meet any longer. What was to happen to our fledgling Right On writers group?
I thought the Right On group would go into hibernation, to be honest about it, for quite a time. According to what they were saying on television and on the radio, it seemed that this was going to be a prolonged period of time.
Personally, COVID-19 affected me in that I'm a musician and would be out playing, and that came to a complete standstill.
Things changed utterly. We would have no more physical meetings, no more Right On. What were we going to do?
Well, I'm sliding into the ocean and I'm watching the sun come up, and the welcome, it gathers round me like a swirl in a coffee cup, and I feel like
During the COVID-19 lockdown, lethargic landlubbers took to the sea waters like lemmings jumping off cliffs. For many, it was a new and exhilarating experience. The regular daily swimmers in Salthill had seen it all before.
it is where I come from, the salty living sea. All the things it has, from elephants to bears, all breathing from the start, with 4 parts to each heart. And I'm floating in the loving arms of the mighty ocean.
The members of our writing group, Right On, were determined not to let the pandemic put a halt to our activities. Virtual sessions would replace the weekly get-togethers, and nothing would stop the publication of Anthology 2021.
We were determined that our Right On meetings would keep going. We took out a subscription to Zoom, and even though none of us was au fait with the platform, we decided we would all learn together.
James, describe your first attempts at Zoom.
When I went on Zoom at the beginning, I was a total amateur at it, but through the guidance of the other members, it actually worked for me.
When the group decided to meet via Zoom, I found it both frightening and exhilarating. Frightening because I hadn't the first clue about technology. I could barely use the mobile phone. But exhilarating because now I was going to meet my friends again every Thursday night.
Our first efforts were chaotic. But then, gradually, we figured it out. Even us oldies.
I was absolutely delighted when the word went out that Right On was going to carry on Zoom. This was good news.
My first Right On meeting was through a Zoom session, so I hadn't the experience of being at a physical meeting. This was actually a very enjoyable experience because I actually did get to meet all of the members and to get a very good idea of what type of writing was involved, and that this could really work because everybody got a chance and an opportunity to talk at the Zoom meeting, and it allowed them to come together without having to leave their homes, and so we maintained the safety of the group whilst we were working together.
After a nervous but enthusiastic start, members gradually came to look forward to Zoom meetings as a replacement for the West Side meetings. But we had 2 very unexpected outcomes. The first thing that happened was that we began to professionalise our presentations using the multimedia technology that was now available to us.
Feel my breath upon your face. Feel my smile, a warm embrace. Proud grandad from the human race, not some silly interface.
And secondly, we began to attract members from within Ireland and indeed from all over the world, something that was hitherto impossible.
In Germany, group activities came to a halt, just like everywhere else in the world. I was introduced to Write On by a young friend of mine in Dublin, who was a member of the group, and he knew I enjoyed writing, and he thought I should give it a try. And that's how I got onto it. My first encounter with Write On was extremely pleasant, this lively and creative group of people. And what pleased me most of all is that nobody was talking about COVID.
The main difference I found with my knowledge of Zoom and what I had to face with the Write On situation was that I was teaching and I had my objectives and I had my plan for the class and it was one-to-one and we had certain technology that we had to use for the piano. This was very different in the Zoom situation for Write On. I was now facing a number of faces, so to speak. We could have up to 20. And that for me, I'm an introvert, I found that quite intimidating. And so that took getting used to.
For the Write On group, the lockdown was like a university of learning. I decided to expand my knowledge of the technology. I learned how to source photos and music to animate the text for other members' presentations.
I learned a whole lot of skills during COVID-19, particularly in relation to using Zoom, presenting our work through Zoom and presenting feedback through Zoom.
When I presented my work to the Zoom meeting, it was taken by members of the group and it was redone with some photographic backgrounds as put in by Anne Murray, a voiceover by Frank, and it just made a complete job of it.
PowerPoint was one of the new programs that I learned, and that took a little while now to get my head around, but it was really well worthwhile, really super. Got into it after a while. The audio part of it, first of all, I was introduced to, Frank helped me with that, and to insert my voice into the system. And then after that, I was on my bike. I learned to put in my pictures and I sketch and paint a bit. So I was able to upload those and I really, really saw things moving here. So it was a totally different way of narrating the story and of making it interesting, really, in a whole new way.
Here is Judith describing how she developed her poem, Manhattan Christmas Magic.
Manhattan Christmas Magic came about because I've spent some time in New York, and my favourite time of year in New York is Christmas. So in the piece that I wrote, I included it was a walk through Manhattan, and what I hoped is with the pictures that I included and the words that I included, that it would give people a picture of Manhattan, even if you were never in there. You could imagine what it was. I put it together in PowerPoint. Most of the photographs were photographs that I had taken myself through different times I'd spent there, and they were a reflection of Manhattan at Christmas. And a lot of it was, obviously, there's poverty and there's happiness and there's joy and there's shopping, and all of those things I think I try to reflect in the piece.
With refined precision tapping. At St. Pat's, a Christmas prayer, a candle lit for all who care. Then listen to the carol singers while giving to the saints and sinners. Smile at Grinches, join the queues, not a time to booze or snooze. Central Park, a white-haired grandee happily singing, help our pantry. Don't be dark, don't be dreary, it will only make God weary. Don't be sad, don't be greedy, just be kind and feed the needy. All muffed up, we walk the High Line,
under twinkling New York skyline. End the day in serendipity for this city's speciality. Thick and creamy, rich hot chocolate, dark and frozen is my favourite.
Some of the new skills that I learned included Zoom, of course, I hadn't used that before. And then we were taught how to present our own texts with pictures, with music, and using PowerPoint, which I hadn't done before, so that it wasn't just writing, it was also these internet skills that we learned, which was very interesting. Many of the new skills that I learned are on display in this short extract from one of the stories I wrote that I was particularly pleased with.
A few days after our walk, Louise starts showing upsetting symptoms, and I take her to the vet. The waiting room seems full of people when I shoulder the door open. The late afternoon light falling through the large shop window from the street is dimmed by the tall building opposite, so that it's a moment before I'm able to see properly. Nearly all the chairs are occupied. Animals are lying at their owners' feet or enclosed in baskets on the low tables between them. There's an empty seat in the far corner with a table next to it, and I place the box with Louise there, turning it so that she can look out. Despite her discomfort, she examines her surroundings, but she isn't purring. As usual, nobody is speaking.
I'm really looking forward to the Write On Anthology 2022. My story, Mam's Little Clown, has a very special place in my heart. Seconds later, Mam awoke. Hazy and slightly dazed by the sunlight, she lifted her eyes to meet mine. "Look," I said, holding my sketch up for inspection. "Who is this?" "Ah," she sighed, smiling, giving a gentle nod to the little man at the foot of her bed. "That's my little clown." Mam passed away peacefully 5 days later.
Gradually, the presentations became more interesting and sophisticated. The members began to insert their own audio, their own narration for their texts and poems. They then learned to animate the text so that the words appeared on the screen as they were reading them. In addition to this, they became involved in selecting images and photographs to capture the mood and atmosphere of their works. And finally, they got involved in selecting the music that would act as a background ambience to the entire piece. All in all, these new presentations were professional and profoundly better than anything we had seen before.
James, you have an idea for a new poem. You've been thinking about a new poem for a while. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I have a poem in mind, and I've been considering it for quite a while. It goes back to when I was a young chap and my grandfather was in the house after my grandmother had passed away. I have strong memories of that, and in particular, some of the surroundings and his behaviour, the type of man he was. My grandparents lived in Sea Road beside the Jez Church. They were a close couple. They were always together, and during her illness, I knew it had a profound effect on him. Even though I was only a child, I was wondering what he would do without her. Afterwards, I found out that it broke his heart. I ventured into the house when the adults were downstairs after she passed, and I went up into her bedroom. This is the room they both shared. I observed the window panes, the windows themselves, the rotten timber, the imperfection of the work that he should have done in the house. But then I looked at her corner, her dressing table, and the difference, the cleanliness, the layout and the set out that she had. It triggered something in my mind at that time, and I'm reflecting now on both him and her and the room that they were in. My intention will be to give a broad outline, essentially, and then to refine it later on. But I would present it to the Right On group so that they, in actual fact, could give me their opinions on various little bits of it. Like I say, it's all in my mind, it's just to progress it.
James, I think that's a great idea for a poem, and I'm sure we've all kind of sat in a room after a death and wondered that. When you said a low sigh escaped from his lips, was that referring to the realization that his wife was now dead?
It was essentially looking around the room and the fact that it was just a single room now, just for him. He was lost, really, in his own thoughts.
Yeah.
He was sobbing, in a sense, quietly. There was no outburst of tears or anything like that. It was just the dreariness and loneliness. And I suppose the fact that when he looked at the window, there was work that should have been done that he hadn't done for her. And there was a bit of guilt in it as well.
But I think we all have guilt after death, in some ways, that we didn't do more for the person, maybe.
James, I love the idea. I think it has great poignancy and really touches your heart. But looking through the poem, I'm just wondering about the line, a sad, sobbing cry. And I just wonder about the word sad. Is it a bit limp? It's more than sadness in this man's heart. That a stronger word perhaps would be better there. Just maybe give that a bit of thought.
Well, thanks for that, Anne. I agree with you, even though I disagree with you. When I write something, I love it. Now that you ask me to change it.
I know, James.
That's raw. That gives a raw feeling to things. And maybe there's a word for you. Maybe it was just a raw sobbing sigh.
I think that's stronger. A raw, I think, would be a great word in there. I think it would be so effective.
Well, and I agree with you. It would be a vast improvement. Thanks for that.
After a death, you are usually raw.
Yeah.
I mean, you're raw with
That's true.
Everyone's raw with emotion after a death.
I agree with what everyone has said so far. I think it's a very strong topic, very strong concept. And you're painting a picture, it strikes me, in the room. And it reminds me of something. I think in the visual arts, they talk about negative space, where you can, but if you draw a background and all you draw is the background, but the background, say, is black, and it forms a vase. This is a picture I remember seeing one day. And, someone explaining the concept of negative space to me is that you fill in the background, and it makes it obvious that there's a vase in the middle, even though you never mentioned the vase. So that idea, I think, of painting the picture of a room which clearly at one stage had a woman in it, but now no longer has a woman in it, is a great way of bringing, calling attention to the fact that there's no longer a woman there. So I think when it comes to the title of the poem, there might be something in there perhaps that you could draw upon.
We can throw it open to the group as well, James.
Missing person, or that's not a good title, but it's about what's missing rather than what's there.
Oh, well, it's something to do with emptiness, maybe.
Scent of the past.
Lost presence.
Yes.
I think there should be woman in the title. Woman or wife or lady or something like that should be in the title.
Okay, that's good.
Because you itemize all the stuff belonging to her, and she's not there anymore.
Yeah, now you're getting there.
Yeah, like Missing Woman or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Missing Woman. Okay, James, you have plenty of ideas there anyway from the conversation about the title. So I'm sure you will come up with something new and something novel yourself.
Well, I've seen some of the background material and work that Frank and Anne have done on previous poems and short stories by others, and it's very impressive. With regards to my own poem, I would like to come across as being sentimental both pictorially and musically. The pictorial pictures I would like to see as being antiquated, old pictures if possible. And if Anne could just seek them out, an old dressing table, old crockery or whatever was going with it, an old powder puff if she has one. And from Frank's point of view, I would like the music to be quiet, sentimental, low, and tear-jerking. If I got all that, I'd be happy.
Absence of Woman, James Keogh. On the edge of their bed, he stared at the window, his eyes not venturing beyond the glass, settling on the cobwebs, the dirty panes, timbers with wet rot beneath, the cracked peeling paint. A low sigh escaped his lips. It might eventually break into a raw, sobbing cry. Standing up to leave, he slowly turned back, his eyes running over tossed bedclothes. Her dressing table, the wonder of a woman, neatly, carefully placed on embroidered white linen, 2 sweetheart china dishes, holding rings and bangles, lipstick holders, shades inside, Christmas red and spring cherry, brought to life on cherub lips. Perfume sprays, beguiling scent of a woman's aromatic hint, a heavily caked powder puff, the powder now dry, cracked in its circular container, a soft bristled hairbrush with ornamental surround, her hanging necklace pieces, strings of silver pearls and beads, gold heart and hand pendant, coupled with its chain, a paper butterfly of colours, the softest hue of greens with blue dappled through. A stocking draped on the side, the other dropped on the floor, a woman's private place reflected in her mirror, a reflection gone now, gone forever. He stood silently in a room, his memories now astir. He turned the doorknob, stepped out of the room onto a landing of solitude. That is nice. That is nice, isn't it?
That is indeed, yes.
High five. Well done, Anne. Tell us this, when you started with Right On, did you have all these skills yourself?
I didn't even have a laptop.
Ah.
I had to buy one.
So how long did it take you to learn how to do all this?
Well, I got a few lessons from yourself, and
I must
it's
be a
just
great
practice.
teacher.
It's practice. Practice is the main thing, isn't it?
Right. And
so
just
I really enjoyed it.
Right.
Because it, with lockdown, I was just sitting at home feeling sorry for myself.
Yes.
And I could go up there and get lost in that and the computer and practice.
It's the kind of thing that you get absorbed in, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Searching for
yes.
for the pictures.
I used to have to set my alarm to remind me to come down and turn on the dinner.
I'm sure your family were wondering what you were doing upstairs.
I think my husband would throw his hands into the air. Oh, she's on again.
You're at that thing again. But seriously, since we started with the Zoom meetings, we've sometimes 10 or 12 presentations every week.
We do. And when we were in the physical meetings in West Side, like you might have 2 or 3. Some nights you sort of have nothing.
Yes.
And
as well as that, I always think that people kind of threw them away, or you didn't see those pieces again.
Yes, that's true.
But now with this presentation feature, people get to see
back
it,
and see
and
it.
they can show it to
they can show it to their friends and family if they're interested.
What does WOWO stand for?
Well, we developed that for What's On, Right On, and that's the menu each week. It goes up on WhatsApp to tell people if they're going to appear on screen during the Zoom meeting.
Right. I just clicked on at random as Anne was talking, WOWO, which means What's On, Right On, for this week, the 29th of April. And we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 presentations that week.
Yeah. Now, some of them are finished presentations, then more people just send in a draft and we put it up as a draft to be read and to get feedback on it, and then they might represent it again when they have it more finished, and then we put the pictures with it.
Okay, so we've really become a kind of a high-tech writing group.
Unknown to
ourselves, or because we needed to do so.
Yeah.
We have our own website, which we developed ourselves. I have to say thanks to Sean McGrath, one of our members, who was a bit of a genius with computers, and he showed us how to do it. But once he showed us, then we were able to continue on. And we were able to create all these different sections. I've just got to click on another one here, our publications. And these are all the books we've done. It's a day for Red.
Yes, there are 2 members there out of the blue. 2 members have their own. Enough writing for their own book.
That's right. And there's Right On Anthology 2021, 2020 and 2019. Soon to be joined by Right On Anthology 2022. Of course, we can't leave without talking about Mug of the Month.
Oh yes, Mug of the Month, my favourite. Everybody's favourite is Mug of the Month.
Mug of the Month has taken on a life of its own.
It's only 50 words, and you're given 2 words. They have to be included in the piece.
That Day by Anne McManus. That summer's day I was driving along the busy prom. In the sunshine I had lost my train of thought. A child dashed out from behind a car. I braked, swerved. The child died, a girl, an only child. Since then I have lost track of time.
And sometimes, when I'm doing the pictures, you have to think, is this really what the person thought, or are you reading it, putting some different meaning in it?
The Garden in Snow. Stark barren grasses rise from snowy tufts. Now garden shapes, once trained and clear, are white, softly anonymous. Gusts whip a screen of whirling flakes amok to enshroud cowering shrubs. A flash of amber, leaping, leaves a fuzzy track across the pristine fleece. Tranquility.
In many ways, Right On has beaten the virus, Anne. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. It was a lifesaver, really. I used to look forward to those Thursday evenings because there was nothing else to do when we were really locked down.
And I have to say thank you very much for all the hard work that you've done throughout the year. You've done brilliant work with the photographs, with the presentations, and it has really brought on the entire group.
Right On did not allow COVID-19 to stop our progress. We published Right On Anthology 2021, launched by Michael D. Higgins, no less. Then, this was quickly followed by a member's book, Anne McManus, A Day for Red. And then, believe it or not, my own book, Out of the Blue, a collection of poems, memories. And now, this year, we will publish Write On Anthology 2022, again launched by Michael D. Higgins in the autumn. Again, our hardback editions.
I came up with the idea for Beat the Virus because we had come to the end of a year where everyone had really, I suppose, experienced fear, sorrow, and an unknown world. And I wanted to see how people felt about it. And we had a really great group of writers, and I wanted to get their experience of 2 lines from each person that would give us a variety of their writing skills and their ideas, but also how they experienced COVID.
Elizabeth, let's give the mistletoe a miss.
We were extremely impressed with the amount, with the quality of the lines.
Definitely.
And it just felt this needs to be put to music. And we handed it over to Frank.
Came up with a fantastic
production.
Of course.
And so with Frank's input, with the input of the group, with everybody singing their chorus line, as well as having written their 2 lines, we came up with a fantastic piece of work to end the first year of COVID. I'm just reading James's line here as an opening line. A Christmas candle still burning bright, a welcome sign for this holy night.
Oh, I think a great opening, yeah. The Christmas candles still burning bright, a welcome sign on this holy night. And on a frosty night, you know, cheeks redden and noses glow. And tonight, maybe we're gonna see some snow. So let's give the mistletoe a miss. Loads of air kisses will spread the bliss. And you will feel better if we're all one together. Tonight, let's ask God to make the world better. Essential workers first in line to get the vaccine by Christmas time. Don't they know this virus can be gone? Real friends delivered in so many ways. While we were stuck in these COVID days, and in mass we steered from sickness, hopes with prayer we might see Christmas. While this day we hope COVID will be dismissed. There's a ward inside the hospital, and it's a place of dread and fear. But at last a ray of hope dawns. The vaccine, it is here. And the Christmas bells that ring are to welcome 21. So tonight, at last, we'll have some fun. Oh, let bells chime at Christmas time. The light will shine with hugs online. Don't they know this virus will be gone? Beat the virus, keep us free from COVID sickness. Beat the virus, and keep us free from COVID sickness. Beat the virus, let's go have some fun next Christmas. Beat the virus.
us free from COVID sickness. Beat the virus. Let's go have some fun next Christmas. Beat the virus.
Right on, we beat the virus.
Yes, right on, bet the virus.
Yes, right on, beat the virus.
Okay.
Right on, beat the virus. Right on, beat the virus.
Right on, beat the virus.
Right on, beat the virus.
I think it's true to say that right on, beat the virus.
Tris Liamliv. And may I thank you for how you are working for the accessing and supporting of the cultural space, particularly in and throughout the challenging times we're currently facing. Indeed, throughout the challenge of COVID-19, so many wonderful people have found many imaginative and inventive ways in which to ensure that outlets for cultural engagement remain open, available in new forms. Maruk Tranaheran, as President of Ireland, I'm deeply grateful to all of you for all of your work. The creativity that you are sharing and that so defines you has a vital role to play in making safe the cultural space for now and into the future. I wish you success, Ganairiliep, as you continue to make your unique contribution to the shaping of that shared and better future, and every success as you continue with your artistic endeavours. Gwym gachra ari, ur nirachti inish agus an táki, is berbanacht, slán.
Well, I'm sliding into the ocean and I'm watching the sun come up, and the welcome, it gathers round me like a swirl in a coffee cup, and I feel right at home. Salty waters I've always known, and the ocean is the place that calms my mind. I am in the ocean, and the ocean is in me, and it is where I come from, the salty living sea. All the things it has, from elephants to bears, all breathing from the start, with 4 parts to each heart. And I'm floating in the loving arms of the mighty ocean blue. All she wants is to stay alive, and that depends on me and you. All the garbage that we throw, plastic mountains that we grow, all the fish we take away, will kill the sea one day. I am in the ocean, and the ocean is in me, and this is where I come from, the salty living sea. All the things it has,
Just be careful you don't trip.
elephants to bears, all breathing
I don't know if I'm intruding in the backyard.
with 4 parts to each heart. And I'm walking up the sandy beach, and I'm listening to the ocean roar. She says, please refrain from taking me for granted anymore. We can save heart if we choose.
I've forgotten the third thing, but it sounded great in rehearsal.
Well, what are we?
The Right On Anthology 2022
And the ocean is in me, and it is where
We
I
had
came
something
from, the
to
salty
do.
living sea. All the things it has, from elephants to bears, all breathing from the start, with four parts to each
Go on, Anne, you can do this.
Sliding into the ocean, and I'm watching the sun.
Audio, images, animation. Okay, take 2.
Right on, bit the virus.
Bit the virus.
Okay.
We put that in.